What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne and you're watching TaiwanPlus. Taiwan's intelligence chief is warning that China may try to interfere with the country's upcoming presidential election. National Security Bureau Director General Tsai Ming-yen says opinion polls may be a particular focus.
可能也要注意到，中共也有在跟台湾的一些公关公司在进行一些民调。那这些民调发布也有可能会对于台湾选举过程当中产生一些影响。所以对于中共非常多元的一个介选的手法，我们都有在密切的关注。
Tsai says Beijing could spread disinformation and apply military or economic pressure to try to affect the vote. He says Beijing may also fund trips to China for voters or pay for Taiwan nationals in China to return home to cast their ballots. Tsai also warned about China's new anti-espionage laws. He says more Taiwan nationals are being questioned while traveling in China. In related news, the leaders of a communist party in Taiwan have been accused of taking money from China to influence elections. Tiffany Wong has more.
Protesting U.S. influence in Taiwan. These are members of the Taiwan People's Communist Party, a fringe group advocating unification with China. Their leaders, now facing trial in Taiwan. Prosecutors say Chairman Lin De-wang, Vice Chairman Zheng Jianxing, and one other received instructions and funding from Beijing for close to a decade. It's an accusation they deny.
基本上我参与政治20几年来，我每一次选举都是自己出钱出力，从来没有人给我赞助。那时候我们有一些自愿来的朋友，从基隆、从桃园，那我们想说，那你从这么远来，对不对？我给你一个车马费，合不合理？
It's not illegal to be a communist or support unification in Taiwan, but it is illegal to get support from a hostile nation like China. That's due to the Anti-Infiltration Act, a law passed in 2020 to protect Taiwan's elections from foreign interference. The law prevents people from canvassing, disrupting assemblies, and spreading disinformation with the direction or funding of a hostile foreign power. Taiwan frequently faces cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns from Chinese actors targeting its democratic institutions. A report released earlier this year by Doublethink Lab, a Taiwanese NGO that researches Chinese influence overseas, showed that Taiwan was the country most influenced by China in society and media. China conducts campaigns abroad to promote pro-China rhetoric under the umbrella term United Front Work.
Starting from last December, actually after our recent election, there are like more and more, a lot of United Front Work activities right now here in Taiwan, a lot.
3 other people whose organizations received funding from China to try and influence Taiwanese society were indicted for violating the Anti-Infiltration Act earlier this year. With presidential elections coming up in Taiwan next year, authorities are on high alert for any suspected Chinese influence campaigns, and voters will need to judge for themselves where a candidate's true loyalty lies. Joseph Wu and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Labor groups are condemning a lack of pro-worker policies from the main presidential candidates. As the campaign moves into its final 100 days, labor rights activists held a rally in the capital. John Van Trieste was there.
Soaked by the rain and surrounded by police, a group of labor activists gather in Taipei with a message for candidates in the upcoming presidential election that demands for better working conditions are not going away. Since they banded together in 2016, the group has been holding rallies before every presidential vote. But this time, just 100 days before people go to the polls, there's a different kind of anger in the air. There could be 4 serious presidential hopefuls this time, but the activists say each of the candidates has been too busy attacking each other to pay attention to workers' problems.
到目前为止都还没有正式的一个立场来表态说要去挺劳动政策的，或者是说有发布这个劳动政策白皮书的部分。
Disillusionment with mainstream parties runs high here. The tiny Labor Party is one of the contingents out in force. But these protesters still want to make it clear that worker support can't be taken for granted.
那这4个总统候选人对我来说，目前我看起来都是一个比较是偏重资本家的这个立场的。我们也希望说能够让这些总统候选人可以看到，这个劳工的选票其实是，如果是你需要的，有一些彻底的改变，在这个阶段应该是非常重要。
There are 7 specific changes they want. Some are familiar, like calls for higher wages and more days off. But recent events have added to the list of demands. A factory explosion in late September killed 10 people and injured over 100 more. Inspectors later found the factory had committed numerous safety violations leading up to the tragedy. Firefighters, who lost 4 of their colleagues in the disaster, say this isn't an isolated case. They want greater workplace safety protections and bigger penalties for factory owners who break the law.
这已经是台湾在这10年来第3起的集体殉职事件了，所以消防员非常的愤慨。为什么政府长期的去漠视消防员的职业安全问题，以及不让消防员组织工会为自己发声？
As the campaign enters its final stages, there are plenty of other events, including the upcoming National Day celebrations, which are likely to grab attention. But in the drizzle, these activists say they won't stand for ignoring the problems faced by the country's workers any longer. Howard Zhang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Chip firms are competing for talent to keep innovation on track. In Taiwan, that problem is made worse by fewer students going into chip-related fields. Justin went to find out what the country's budding engineers are looking for in an employer.
Morris Wu is working to get his PhD at one of Taiwan's first semiconductor academies. He was one of the few chosen to travel to Eindhoven in the Netherlands for a chance to learn from Dutch chip experts.
We visit ASML, NXP, and Smart Photonics, and some other worldwide international companies.
Though Taiwan dominates in making chips, the global semiconductor industry relies on many countries putting their strengths together. Dutch chip firm ASML, for example, is the only company in the world that makes EUV lithography equipment, machines that are used in the most expensive step of making advanced chips. But beyond technical expertise, for Morris, there was another takeaway from his time abroad.
In Taiwan, we always think the engineer and they work very late every day. But in Netherlands, the engineer just went home very early.
Taiwan's intensive work culture is especially strong in the semiconductor industry. That's a tone largely set by world-leading chipmaker TSMC, where some engineers live in factory dorms during the week and only return home on weekends.
That is something that you cannot do in the United States or anywhere else.
But as chip firms, including TSMC, expand their operations at home and abroad, recruiting enough skilled engineers is becoming a tall order. And some next-gen talents are using the chance to study overseas to gauge the merits of different work cultures.
In Netherlands or in the Europe part, they actually stimulate your critical thinking, then encourage you to have your own opinion.
The working culture is also very different. I want to be a work-life balanced engineer.
The next generation of chip engineers is preparing to bring their valuable, advanced skills to the marketplace. And some are weighing the value of that work against the time it takes away from the rest of their life. Justin Wu and Joyce Sin for TaiwanPlus.
Taipei's mayor has announced new measures to help update the city's older buildings. Jiang Wan'an says the measures will focus on making buildings more disaster-proof. Over 70% of Taipei's buildings were built more than 30 years ago, at a time when safety standards were looser. High-profile building collapses during earthquakes have since seen regulations tightened. The mayor says he expects the revised urban renewal plan will help reinforce the city's structures and make them safer.
特别针对防灾型，就是包括海砂屋、绿质过高的建筑物，或者是防震系数不足的这些建筑物，站在一个维护市民朋友居住安全的角度来推动都市更新。
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, we leave you with images of Orthodox Christian monasteries built on huge natural pillars in Meteora, Greece. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.